welcome. um, so what I wanted to talk about was, first of all, obviously your story and how you have coped and how you are where you are today. But also, I wanted to just go through sort of how we met. Obviously, a nutritionist versus a client, but it wasn't that, was it? First of all, we met on the field, didn't we?
Yeah, exactly that. So doing the fun things and training hard.
All of the strength stuff is how we kind of met in the first place, and then you kind of let me know a little bit of your insights. I already obviously know about ulcerative colitis and all of the challenges that can come up. So what we're doing is, this video is to raise awareness, and obviously if there is anybody out there that needs kind of support or help, or they've just been diagnosed or they know someone, what we're trying to do is just raise awareness and let people know that, you know, there is light at the end of the tunnel, because I've never quite met anyone like you who's just been taking it all in their stride. I know that everyone is different, but I think you are an excellent kind of person to give this kind of support and advice to people. So I thought we would start off with, what is kind of ulcerative colitis to you in your world? Like, what is it to you?
Well, it's been many things, and I think it will constantly change and evolve. The answer to that question, because ulcerative colitis started off as just being these two words I've never heard of and didn't mean anything to me. And it was just, you know, then it turned into this sort of this demon and this massive scary thing that suddenly turned my life on head, and I didn't know what to do. And it evolved, and it became something that I'm always going to have, and it became a bit of a companion. And then it also became one of my best teachers, and it kind of like a bit of a superpower that you can utilize and tap into. And what it must never become is an excuse. And you know, for people that don't actually know what ulcerative colitis is, if you've heard of Crohn's disease, it's in the same family, and it's inflammation of the rectum and the bowel, and different parts of the lower bowel, and it's seen as many as an autoimmune disease, because it's your body's attacking itself, and it can lead to some horrible things of you know, your intestines sort of sticking together, perforations happening, and sepsis and all things like that. So it's a nasty condition, and it's a lifelong condition.
Yeah, because there isn't actually a cure, is there? There's management, but there is no cure at all. So it can be.
Yeah, it's all about management, and you know, it's easy to manage in some respects with some medications, with steroids, or with anti-inflammatories, or enemas, or you know, all kinds of things, biological meds. But then there's also surgery. So you see a lot of people that have had it cut out, but it's not gone. It's still a condition that you live with, and it might return. So people go through all kinds of surgeries, and they've still got it. So, you know, it's definitely something that is different for everyone, but there are very similar struggles that people go through. So, you know, I think it's so, you know, that's why I'm so excited to do this chat, because, you know, if I can share that experience of what I went through, and it's going to start off with some pretty dark times. You know, it's not a rosy picture, and I haven't always been positively living with it, and but it's a journey, and you have to go through some of those dark times to get to the positive side. And if I can shave a few years off someone else's journey, or if I can just give a heads up of what to do in this situation, to anyone watching this, then fantastic, and it's worthwhile, because you know, it's a hard battle, and it's one of those invisible illnesses that people just don't know about, and because it's to do with poo and bums and all of that, People don't want to talk about it.
Exactly.
They don't want to talk about it, and it's just the way it is, and people get embarrassed, and everyone does it. So it's just, if you've got Crohn's and colitis, you just do it a lot more. So it's
but it's interesting how you said like it was your demon, but it's changed into your superpower. Well, that's absolutely awesome how you've done that. But you said you didn't really know what it was before. Had you ever heard of it from any? I mean, I guess because people don't offer this information when you meet people, do they? You have to kind of get to know someone before you ask about, why couldn't they make it on a night out? Because I mean, it does affect, it impacts your entire life, doesn't it?
Massively. I'd never heard of it. I think I met one person that I knew of who had Crohn's disease, and that's only because he had a massive scar in his stomach. Right. And I said, what happened there? Did you get stabbed? Totally oblivious. And he said, no, it's a disease I have, and this is what it is. And I just remember him telling me the name. No idea, or if I'm honest, interest into what it was and how it affected him. And I used to say, it was just, he was a good friend at the time, and I would say, I'll just have another beer, or it was just a complete oblivious world to me, and it wasn't in my tiny little window of life and thinking, so I completely ignored it, really. And and I think that's a small insight into how most people feel about other people's illnesses. It's obviously there's a lot of people that care, but a lot of people just want to get on with their own thing, and if there's something holding someone back, then they're going to probably not be that interested in it.
And it's that case of, hi, how are you? But actually,
it becomes a lonely battle.
It really is that hard, that asking someone how they are, but really, I don't want the long version, just a quick great, and then you can go great, and that makes you feel better because you don't need to listen. But you've asked. I mean, we're all seem so busy.
Yeah.
So
but it's, I think it's human nature.
Yeah, it is.
And it's not, we've all done it. So it's not like it's any malicious thinking there. It's just, you don't expect to have someone's whole medical history told to them when, it's just not what you want to hear. You want to say, yeah, I'm good, and move on.
Yeah, very, very true. So how did you feel when you were actually diagnosed? Did you, I mean, obviously you were told that there was something that was wrong with you, would change your entire life. I mean, what kind of impact did that make on you?
Well, I think there was a period before diagnosis, and I was diagnosed, I think I was 26, I'm 42 now. There was a period of about 2 or 3 years where I was just getting more and more ill. I would be passing blood when I go to the toilet. I'll be going multiple times. There'll be, urgency that just like, literally one minute you are fine, next minute you need the bathroom, and that's that. There is no stop. So it's emergency time all the time, and of course that builds up panic because obviously you don't know what's going on. You're scared of why there's blood, and so you've got this whole period pre-diagnosis of what the hell's going on, and I basically, like many mid-20s, early 20s, males, probably put my head in the sand and just carried on with life and just ignored it and said, oh, well, this is just something, I've got a stomach bug or something like that, and carry on and go out with my friends for a night out and a hot curry or something, absolute dangerous game. But, that's what fear does. It makes you ignore it. And, and going through those periods, looking back now, I see the signs were happening much earlier than that, but I remember those 20s were particular issues. But when I eventually went to see the doctor, and this is a message to everyone, go and see the doctor. If you've got anything like that, go and see the doctor. Don't wait, just go. And I initially went because, the ulcerative side, not that I knew it then, but ulcerative side of this disease came out, and I had about 40 mouth ulcers, and they were all over my tongue. I couldn't eat, so I was sort of very withdrawn and hungry, because I just couldn't digest anything. Even if I ate something, you know, it wasn't staying in. So I was in a bit of a bad way. I remember just feeling really not frightened but frustrated. Why did I have a mouthful of mouth ulcers? It just didn't make sense. And so I went to the doctor, and of course he started putting 2 and 2 together, and I got a pretty quick diagnosis. And that's something I hear is people have to go through the mill a bit to get a diagnosis. So because it just says, oh, it's just IBD, and it just gets put away because it's such a generic category. But there are many different things to do with IBD. So you can have ulcerative colitis and IBD. So that's one for you as well. But it's something that the doctor kind of went to pretty quick, and he said, look, this is what it is. And if you think about it, it's one pipe from mouth to backside. You've got one pipe, and the whole pipe's affected. So that's why you've got mouth ulcers, because you've got huge inflammation going on in your rectum, in your bowel, and that inflammation is happening in your mouth as well, and that's why you're in the way you are. Straight away, we need to start you on some steroids and some anti-inflammatories. That's pretty much how it went. And the steroids kicked in pretty quick. I've found over the years I'm really responsive to steroids, but I really don't like taking them. So it's a real deal with the devil on those.
Yeah.
But they used to be my go-to thing because it worked. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, I'll just have those. And what's going on? And I had no one to talk to. I felt so lonely because I didn't know anyone that had this. I didn't talk to anyone that suffered with it or had experience of it. And it was just a really grim time. I didn't feel like, you know, my family got it. I didn't feel like my friends were worth telling about it. You know, it was an isolating time.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting there, running to the toilet, passing blood, having a sore mouth, with a big diagnosis that you don't really understand because you've never heard of it. You haven't thought, oh, I'm going to start researching it yet, because you're rabbit in the headlights. And you know, it's a terrifying experience. Yeah, okay. But if I was if I was made aware that there were things out there that I could go to at that point, it would have been very useful. However, you've got to be careful with the voices you let into your head. Yeah. Because when I did start looking for these voices and saying, okay, what's going on? You know, you look for the Facebook groups or whatever. Yeah. And there's a lot of poor me chat, and it doesn't help you. It's a lot of woe. Yeah. And it's kind of self-fulfilling prophecies in a sense where, you know, if you talk and say that you're ill, you will be ill. Yes. But if you know, there's a lot of negative thinking there, and it doesn't help. And you know, it took me years to discover that there was this other side of positivity. You know? Yeah,
negativity attracts negativity. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So you do have to be a bit careful with that.
So do you wish, like, if there was anything that you knew before the diagnosis, you said like maybe more support or help? I mean, avoiding the Facebook groups and kind of like, you know, Google, which is awful because it's
never Google,
worst case scenarios. I mean, the great advice of seeing your doctor, which, you know, 100% everyone should, you know, go and see a doctor straight away. But is there anything that, I mean, because you've got a fantastic family for support, so is there anything you just wish you knew beforehand, before the kind of the diagnosis?
Personally,
yeah.
No. And I know that sounds a bit strange, but I think if I'd have known more then, I wouldn't be where I am now. Yeah. Because I would have had a different journey. So I'm glad where I am now, and I'm grateful. But I guess the only thing I would have wished I'd known then isn't really related to the colitis. it was more on the psychological side of things, about coping and stuff like that. So I think I would have benefited of having sort of resilience training in my life at that stage, but that wouldn't have been just for colitis, it would have been for anything. So I think in a roundabout way, I think that would have benefited at the time.
Okay, so I always find, when I talk to you, I find you so awesome in that is your outlook, because like you said, there are so many people that once you go on these groups, and it is all about just negativity, attracting negativity, and just woe is me kind of thing. And I get that you know, people struggle, but your positive outlook, like you said, it wasn't always like that. So what is kind of a typical day, a life with you in a kind of, because not everyone will have UC the same as what you have, will they? I mean, they'll have the basic symptoms, but it depends on the severity. And what's a day in the life of Leo like?
Do you want life as Leo now or life as Leo in my 20s?
One of each. What it used to be like, and then now.
Okay, I'll start with my 20s. So life of Leo was basically a lot of partying and fitting work in, and then having colitis as well. So I'd be getting up, terrible night's sleep, having to get up to the bathroom a few times in the night. Probably got a bit of a hangover as well. Not eating good food, going to work, high stress environment, constantly going to the bathroom. You know, I could be, back then I'd be going to the bathroom 30, 40 times a day, and that would be normal, you know. So it was, you know, and that wouldn't faze me. I'd just ignore it. I'd just shut it out, because it was a thing that I was scared of, and if I ignored it, it would go away. I'd have my meds, but I probably wouldn't have them at the right time and in the right way. I wouldn't even be thinking about what foods I'm eating or any supplements or anything like that. I'd be doing a full day's work. I'd probably be meeting people after work, going out for a drink. I lived in London, so it was, you know, you'd go out for a drink, go out for dinner, you know, smack back a pizza or something like that, no problem. You know, and then do it all over again, and it was repetitive, you know, and I wouldn't be doing any sort of exercise. I'd be, you know, burning the candle at both ends and wonder why I felt rubbish. That was then, you know, and that was a typical time. It wasn't, I didn't have my children then. I didn't know my wife then, of course. You know, and it was just a very different world, a very different world. And I look back and I think, I don't want to go through that again.
I know, you know, when some people say I'd love to be in my 20s again, I just look back and think, no, no way.
I like sleep too much. Yeah, 30s were good, but 20s, yeah, I'm done with those. But yeah, so a day in my life now is very different. So, you know, I have three daughters, so they keep me pretty busy. So I'll probably be up, or at least awake, around 5 in the morning, and I will get up and I'll start getting stuff ready for the girls for their school, and get myself ready for doing work, whether I'm going into London or working from home. If it's on a weekday here, the school run takes over and I have to do that, and or don't have to, but I like to do that, I should say. And we, you know, so I drop the elder 2 at school, and I take the little one to nursery. And then I'll get back and do a day's work and pick them up from their clubs or what have you, or my wife does. And then if it's a training day, then I'm buzzing, because I'm excited to go out training with the Strength and team. Shout out. And got to shout out to the Strength and you know, that normally keeps me pretty excited for the evening, and tired. And then I get home, and you know, during the day I've eaten a solid amount of protein, and I've thought about what anti-inflammatory foods I've eaten, you know, things like sweet potato and stuff like that you just, you know, that are good for you. You need all of that, especially when you're training with a mind to improve and gain muscle weight and things like that. You need to, you know, speaking to a nutritionist. Of course, you need to do that, but that's what I do. But
when you came to me as a client, you pretty much had all of that stuff, like, so from your life before to your life now, even when you came to see me as a client, you pretty much had it nailed. What you was, there was only a few tweaks that I made. You did not become a long-standing client. You were pretty impressive with what you came with already to the table, kind of thing.
I was surprised, if I'm honest, because this was all trial and error over the years. Being open-minded to trying things is a massive benefit in life, and I kind of started that journey in my 30s, and I'll tell you more about that later. But you've just got to be open and say, actually, no, I need to, I've heard about this being beneficial to people, give it a go and test these things. And over the years with ulcerative colitis, you get a very good measure of what your body does, and how it feels after drinking a drink, or having a certain amount of sleep, or having a very stressful conversation, or you're anxious about a quote you've submitted or something like that. Yeah. You get a very good rating on how your body's reacting to these things. So it's a really good place to be able to test things out. And I went through a phase where I was trying apple cider vinegar and honey before bed, seeing how that affected my sleep and things like that. And it's tiny little things that just affect your life, and you don't realize they do until you do them and find benefit from them, or not, and then you move on to the next thing. So where were we? There was a day in the life, wasn't it? Sorry. It was a lot of rambling in my life, rambling.
I think your story is absolutely awesome, but as I said before, you've got like an incredibly great family, beautiful family around you. What kind of impact does that have on them? Like, because from now, because you said before, you didn't have all of that, this lifestyle that you've got now, how does it impact them now? Because you've got it more under control, obviously.
Well, I can tell you a couple of stories there. Yeah. Because I can tell you what it's like when you're not under control. Yeah. When you're flaring up with your condition. Because that's happened plenty of times. So I remember when our first daughter was born, and my wife was just finishing her maternity leave, and I was in charge of getting our daughter ready for nursery and taking her to nursery. And sometimes, and of course, when you've got your first child, you don't know what you're doing very much anyway. So, it's all a bit of a panic. And obviously, colitis is something that, for me, I imagine it affects a lot of people, but I get worse if I'm stressed. And we'll come back to that later about how to manage your stress. But at the time, I was in a very stressful place, and it would take me probably a couple of hours sometimes to get my daughter to nursery. And the nursery was 10 minutes walk from our flat in Highbury. Wow. And it would take that long because I'd need to go to the bathroom so many times. I might have had an accident and I needed to change and shower and all of those things, because it happens. And so it's frustrating and it's upsetting, and it's you get angry about it, and then none of those things help it, but it happens. And so it could take that long, just to do the school run. And but now the girls are older, they know that I've got this stomach illness. I don't, they've seen me go through a couple of times in hospital with it. It's not something that I want them to fear that I've got it. And they see me managing my condition. They see that I've got something that I've got, and I live with it and I deal with it, and I don't let it restrict me. Sure. And I want that to be their relationship with my disease. Mm-hmm. It's not something that hinders me, but something that empowers me. Yeah. And if I can teach them the mental strength of it, then when I'm older and I'm going to still have this condition, they'll have a better understanding of how it could affect me in a bad way and how it can improve me in a good way.
Yeah.
And I think that's my job, is to teach them about living with things that could be an issue. And it could be anything, and it doesn't have to be a disease, and it doesn't have to be anything health related. But if I can teach them resilience, then I'm sure that will help them in later life, awesome. In whatever they do.
Yeah.
But my biggest fear, and I think this is going to be the next huge challenge for me mentally, is if one of those got diagnosed with it. I'd find that pretty brutal, and I do think about that a lot. And touch wood, it doesn't happen, but if it does, it's going to be an interesting one, because A, I'm going to blame myself, I know it, and B, at least I'm there to support them with experience. So that's a tricky one for me. That
that's
how I am with my
children.
children.
Stress for you that you put yourself under that can flare you up, isn't it? Because it's a stress. Yes, that does. Any kind of stress will flare. Will start. It's a bit like putting a stone down a hill. It will just get big. A snowball down the hill. It's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger unless you stop it. And what when you've had a really stressful experience, and you can just feel it in your gut, can't you? Yeah, well, you're in knots, and you can feel it, and it's just been a really bad time. Well, that just builds and builds and builds, and you can just feel it, and it takes all your concentration just to try and stop that happening. And so what I find now with stress is get outside, go for a walk, do something physical, get away from it, get on the field, get in the mud, pick something heavy up, move it, stuff like that, but get outside, whatever you do. What helped you with your kind of stress? Is that why you joined Strength? Were you there before when it was strong downs?
No. So I'm a newbie. I started, my first strength session was in March.
Okay.
End of March. So I've been doing it, what is that, 7-8 months, something like that. I've got the bug and I love it, and I'll always do it now. But I've always been of a physical size where I can just lift stuff. Not being crazy strong, but able. And I've never been a big runner or anything like that. So I always remember being a kid and seeing strongest man competitions and things like that on TV. And, so I've always been drawn to that sort of world, I suppose. But I was too lazy or preoccupied and self-absorbed that I didn't do it. It just wasn't, I wasn't focused.
Yeah.
When I met my wife, 12 years ago, something like that, 11 years ago, maybe. She's not going to watch it, pretty all right. She hears these stories enough, she's not going to watch it. So when I first met her, she's from Finland. So I go to Finland now every year. And going to Finland put me in touch with nature again. And I just was absolutely overwhelmed with the environment. And we go in winter, so it's just this magical place. We go very far up north into Lapland. There's forests, there's fells, there's northern lights, there's snow, there's frozen lakes. It's paradise for me. I like the cold, so it's paradise. What it did, it just put me in touch with this bigger world that I needed to be outside more. Looking up at the night sky, seeing all the stars, remembering how small we are on this tiny speck of a rock. Humility came afterwards, and just experiences where you're seeing the northern lights and things like that. It really affected me, in a good way. And ever since then, and since knowing her, I've always been drawn to the outside. I remember, we went on a family trip to the Lake District, and I saw a hill there, and I was like, I want to go up it. I just want to go up it. I need to go up it. And it was just, it was just like this addiction that I had. I needed to do it, and I needed that hit. And I didn't know what it was and how it was going to benefit me then, but it just compounded what my life was going to be. And so for the last number of few years, spiked from a particularly unfortunate situation where I was put into a hospital for a week. because this is autoimmune disease, and I have one of my meds is immunosuppressants.
Yeah.
So you get everything. You get all the germs and all the colds, and you know, with children, they're just germ sponges. They're going to bring them home, and they're going to get you. So you know, I'm always got a cold, I think. So, well, not recently, and there's probably because of all the outside training, I think. But I had 3 different viruses in one go. None of them were colitis related, but all of them hit me because I had colitis and the pure immune system, along with it was, I forget what they called it now, inactive TB. Basically, I'd contracted.
Okay. Yeah.
So because of all of these things, I had to stop my steroids if I was on those. I had to stop my biological medicine because that was no good. It was made me, because then I had those viruses, the TB situation, and then the colitis that was being untreated because I had these other things. And I basically got into a position where this was 2018, and I lost 20 kilograms in about 6 weeks.
Wow.
And so I'm quite large. I'm 118, 120 kilograms. I was gaunt, and you know, just under 100 kilograms. I was withered away, and I was just not in a good place. And I literally just took myself to hospital with a face mask on. Before everyone had face masks, I was the original face mask wearer because of the TB thing. Yeah, must have been. So trendsetter. Just sitting in that A&E ward at UCLH Hospital in London, needing to see my team because I was in a mess, and they basically admitted me, and I was in an isolation room, and I thought I was a goner, and having that time on my own in that room, away from my wife, away from my girls, I had a lot of soul searching going on. Very scary moment for me, but also it was a moment that I got through, and so it made me stronger that week in the hospital. And I came back. I couldn't really do much. I had no energy, very lethargic. Getting better, a bit of extra leeway, and I can work from home.
Yeah.
It was a case where I just had to recover, and I wasn't going out, and I wasn't doing anything. And I got to it took me about 7 or 8 months to get back to where I should be in terms of healthy weight area. But I couldn't do anything, and I was so frustrated. I needed to, and that's when the great outdoors sort of were calling to me again, because I wanted to go out.
That would help most people, because I mean, in my kind of job, we have not a one size fits all because everybody is different, but the great outdoors, I kind of recommend to about 95% of people. Get out, get in nature, get in woods, forest bathing. It's not just a thing on Instagram. It's a real thing, you just need to get out, focus, just relax. People just need a bit more outdoors time.
Well, I think the main thing it does, it helps you breathe. And I think, apart from it being beautiful, and especially this time of year, we've got the autumnal colours and everything, it's a magical place to go out into the woods or something at this time of year. But it doesn't matter where you are. But if you're walking, you need to breathe. If you're active, you need to breathe. If you're on the sofa going, poor me, I don't feel well, watching some Netflix, and I've been there many, many days, you're not doing anything. You're not helping yourself. You're not. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And that knot in your stomach's not going anywhere. It's just getting bigger. And I think if you can get outside and do something, even if it's 5 minutes, it's better than doing nothing.
Yeah.
So I think whatever, even if you're completely healthy, get outside.
Yeah.
Do more.
So is that your kind of advice for anyone who's recently diagnosed first one would be to get out there.
Yeah, get outside. And I know that's hard because you are restricted to toilets. You need to know where your bathrooms are. And so getting outside is easier said than done when you're suffering with colitis in a flare-up, because you've got to plan your route. You've got to know where the bathrooms are. Hotels are very good places to know where they are, because if you're going into London, know where your hotels are, because you can go in for a bathroom break. Wow. Not all stations at train stations have them, so you've just got to be aware. You've got to adjust your routes and what trains you get, because there's trains into London. Not all trains have toilets, so you need to be aware of all of these things. Your life revolves around the toilet. Get yourself one of those radar keys for the disabled toilets. You can use the bathroom. It's all of those things you need to look at and get. Find people that have UC and Crohn's, that live with these conditions. Speak to the hospital about what the IBD nurses team recommend and things like that. You'll take control of it. And I think that was the difference. When I started taking control of things, probably after the first decade is when I did that. I used to question the doctors, how dare I? But I started to learn about these things, about what my body was doing, what these words meant, what the medicines were and what they did, and like as I said earlier about steroids, they're really effective for me, really effective. But I didn't want to be on them. I got the moon face, and I got all the kinds of, some dark times. They have some very tough effects on you. And, if you can avoid them, go for it. But question the doctors. They're there to, you don't have to just take what they say as golden, because it's also your body. You do have a say in it. And it gets to the point now where you just have a very good relationship with your medical team, because after all this time, you do understand it, and they know you understand it, and you can tell them exactly what's going on, and in a way that they would get exactly how you feel, and work with them, and it's a team effort. And a shout out to the IBD team and nurses at the UCLH, because they are amazing. And it's find people like me that ramble on about things like this on UC, but just be selective. It's letting voices into your mind, because you do have to be careful. Speak to a nutritionist.
Yay!
That's a basic one. That's a basic one. Speak to a nutritionist. And I should have done that a long time ago, but I didn't. And take control. It's your body. It's your situation, so you should take control of it.
So what kind of recovery
that helps you empower?
What kind of recovery plan? Because obviously you have to have that in place, right? A recovery plan for when the flare-ups hit. You can't just keep going as you're going. So what is your recovery plan? Because even though I said everyone's individual, this may work for many, many people.
Yeah. So first recovery plan is to be proactive in what you're putting into your body in the first place. So some people will find that dairy will spike them. Some people will find that sugar will spike them. Some people find that fiber will spike them, with alcohol, with meat, everyone gets affected different ways. And over the years, I've found that anything will affect me, pretty much. But it's just how much of it I have. So if I have too much meat, I won't feel good, and so I don't do that. If I have too much dairy, bye-bye pizzas. I don't do those anyway, like I used to. Sadly, I still miss them. Ice cream, just don't bother. There's so much sugar and dairy in it. Avoid it. Alcohol, I haven't drunk a drop of alcohol since I had one can of beer in August, but before then it was March, I think it was. Wow. Because that's a massive spiker. So preempt the situation. Don't have these things that will affect you. Doesn't mean you can't have a little bit. It's not like that's it. Just be realistic and say you could go out for a night and have a good drink and have a late night, but you're going to suffer the next day, and maybe the few days after that, and maybe a week after that. So just be aware of what the cost is of these things.
Yeah.
But if I'm in a flare-up, I will not have coffee. I will cut down on any dairy that I'm having, switch to oat milk in coffee if I have a coffee. Have a tea, black tea, mint tea, anything with licorice is good. Just start going basic. With cooking, what you tend to do, or what I tend to do even, is I just go sort of proper caveman style, and I'll make a stew that's cooked for so long, so all those fibers are broken down, so they're not overworking your digestive system. Go real basic with it all, and sort of just recover and give yourself a few days of that, and chances are you'll probably start feeling a bit better, because what you need to focus on is resting, getting sleep, and getting in some nutrients. You'll probably need supplements, because your body's not going to process the food in the right way, because it's leaving your body quicker than you want it to, without being absorbed. You're going to get interrupted sleep, so you're going to need to rest. You're going to need to take some time out. It's okay to say, no, I'm not coming out tonight, and things like that. Just don't do it. Sleep's more important. Rest is more important. If you can still go outside for that psychological side, do it. Go for a walk, even if it's 10 minutes, just do it. And just take it easy. Also take some probiotics, definitely. I take Simprove first thing in the morning. We've talked about that before, where I've had it in the past when I've come out of hospital, and it's helped me recover quite quickly. But now I do it where I'm not having flare-ups. I take it every day anyway. And then I'll have sort of kefir yogurt and kombucha and things like that. So love the probiotics and the fermenting.
Yeah.
Always got the mother. Always need the mother.
Yeah. Yes. Definitely. I did a post on that the other day. Always get the mother. Always get the mother. So from then to now, how do you feel now? Like from today on the 19th of November, how do you feel?
I feel in better shape than I've ever felt in my life. I still have colitis. It's empowered me, because I've got it. My life is different, and because of that difference, I've never felt better. And that's at the beginning. I started saying it was my demon, and now it's almost like my best friend and my mentor in a way.
I think it's awesome how you do that.
It's how it just, you mature with it, and you evolve, and you live with it, and you learn. And 18, 19 years in, this is where I'm at with it. And I know, being completely realistic, I know it's going to hit me hard again one day. But until that day, I'm going to go 100% every day. I'm not going to miss out on stuff. I'm not going to slack. I'm not going to, I want to get out in the morning. Mornings, when I'm in a flare-up, mornings are my worst time. That is why I like getting up early now and going outside to train before sort of 7 in the morning, because I appreciate those mornings. It's the attitude I've got now is because I've got gratitude, kind of thing. It's just
awesome.
Don't waste your time, and just be aware that you're not bulletproof, but just keep going, and don't be a doom monger, and don't say, oh, I can't do this because this might happen and all of that. Live your life, but be aware that you might get a bump in the road, and if that happens, okay, deal with it. And it's things like that. And it's, I've let certain voices into my life for various reasons, of people that I've been attracted towards, people who've got podcasts or other books I've read with them, and I've learned a lot about resilience, and doing things, doing uncomfortable things to make you feel comfortable and to grow. How to, I'm a convert when it comes to the ice baths and things like that from Wim Hof. I love getting cold, and then, you know, that makes me feel good. There's a guy called Jocko Willink I listen to a lot. He's an ex-special forces guy, and he's all about getting up at 4:30 a.m. to train and stuff like that, just to discipline equals freedom. And I believe, I'm a believer. There's another guy called David Goggins, and if you know about him, then you know why I'm into him. You know, it's
actually
allow these voices into your head if they suit you, because everyone will take them differently. You know, I've never had a mentor or someone in that role for me, so I've had to find my own ways of doing it. And you know, looking at those sort of people is how I did it and how I started my journey to resilience.
Your journey has been absolutely awesome in terms of where you are now. And I think now, just the fact that you could actually become a mentor to other people because of what you've been through, I think is absolutely amazing. The skills that you've learned and your positivity, definitely mentor there, right there.
Well, I'd like, you know, like I said, if I can help someone shave off some of waste, one's really struggling, you know, reach out, and I'd love to help, because, you know, I know what you're going through, and I can maybe give you some guidance, and you know, and it's I want to be the person that I didn't have.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Wouldn't it have been great to have a you when you were back in your sort of late 20s to help you through it? But like you said,
it would have been great, but would I have listened?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I needed this hard lesson. Maybe
so
this
that
is
you
what
could help many others, especially when you're so young. Is there anything out there that you say, like the amount of toilet breaks and I'm just thinking it's easy for me to say, right, I feel a bit down, I'm going to go out, I'm going to have a walk, nature always picks me up, and I know what works for me, but you know, never given it in any thought of where's the nearest bathroom, because that wouldn't be on my radar. You just but I mean, what is there anything out there that if you do, you come across a place where you can't get to a bathroom, is there anything specialized for people with ulcerative colitis that can help them?
There is a thing. If you go onto crohnsandsandcolitis.org.uk, which is obviously the association in the UK that you can learn a lot from. I believe they have something called a can't wait card that you can apply for and receive. And if you have one of these cards on you, you can use or you can ask to use facilities of business premises and things like that.
That would normally not let you in.
I've never had one. If I'm honest, I've never had one. I've never attempted to get one. I probably should have done, but I've kind of learned from experience, really. You find one or you don't, you know, at the end of the day. You know, if you don't, then go home, take a change of clothes with you. You know, always have a bag with clothes in. You know, look at where you're going. Research is a good thing. Look at your trains. If you're going on a train, you know, if you're in the car, it's a bit easier because you can go to petrol stations and things like that. You can stop off at a McDonald's. Great place that there's so many of them. You know, go and have a Mcshits.
You renamed it. Excellent.
Not sure I can claim to the original of that. I think there's a few people might use that one. But Starbucks is always a handy one as well. You know, it's you just look what's around, and at the end of the day, if you go into a office space or a car showroom or something, so that I've got a very bad medical condition, I need to use a bathroom, please can I do that? I'd be amazed if someone said no.
Yeah, sure.
At the end of the day, everyone's human, so you know, unless you meet someone that's particularly unpleasant or what have you, you know, you're going to be able to, if a friend in need is a friend indeed, sort of thing.
That's
so
very true. Is
I'm
there
sure
anything else that you want to add that I haven't covered?
Yeah.
Just to help people out?
If you are in a situation where you're scared of something, and for me, it was my biggest fear previously was if I needed to have surgery, and you might have to have a bag that you know, instead of being able to go to the bathroom in a normal way, it's you have a bag and have surgery that way. And I was terrified of it. But what I started to do was read about it, and I taught myself about what goes on, what are the options, what if it's temporary, if it's permanent. And you know what? I spoke to people that have got them, and I realized actually this has given them a whole new life. So if there's something that you're scared about, face it and deal with it. Find people that can talk to you about it. One of the guys, Matt, that I spoke to, he's runs a support group, or not a support group, but it's like a fundraiser for Crohn's and colitis. Is a GCASFM, and very, very knowledgeable guy, very nice guy. There's a lot of humble people out there with this condition. There's a lot more than you think. So you are not alone if you've got it. And, you know, look for us and we will help you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for telling your
You're welcome.
Your story.
You're welcome. Sorry if I rambled on too much.
It humbles me, but it's horrible. I mean, I've had a few clients where I kind of get choked because you think, wow, this is just like, I didn't realize how easy I had it. But the way that you are, your positivity and just your awesomeness, and the way you are just with other people is just like you said, it's the journey that you probably had to experience to get to where you are today. But it's just,
I think if I had it easier, I wouldn't be me.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm glad I've got it.